As sowing continues in many parts of the country, extra stubble from last year's heavy rains and bumper crops is proving a challenge for farmers. While some have resorted to burning, light till equipment is also getting a workout. And as Kerry State reports, one of the most sought-after machines comes from a South Australian farming family that has built up a major export business through hard work and hardship.
It may not make the sweetest music, but this machine makes light work of last year's leftovers, as farmers in the Flinders Ranges prepare for the season ahead. Not far away, down a dirt track in an unlikely spot, an identical machine is under construction. Destination, the United States.
Being cheeky enough to be able to take machinery from Bullaroo Centre and plant it smack bang in the middle of the US and in Europe, where they can do it pretty well. I get a bit of a buzz when I sit and think about the likelihood of that actually happening.
Shane Kelly runs his family's engineering company, which is gaining plenty of recognition these days, despite its remote location. Late last year, it was named Australia's Regional Exporter of the Year. But take a peek behind the glass and glory, and you find a hard-working family which hasn't forgotten its humble beginnings. So this is where it all started?
Yes, Kerry. Father put this shed up in 1955, and this was the farm workshop, albeit a bit small by today's standards, and no electricity and basic tools. I had a grinder here and a petrol engine up there, and I'd only grind for about 10 minutes and then it'd get too smoky. I'd have to rush out and get a few breaths.
Fresh out of school and with not much spare cash about, Shane Kelly's father started fixing his family's machinery just to keep the farm functioning. He may not have had much formal training, but his self-taught talents had the neighbours knocking, and he never knocked them back.
We would just manufacture day and night. I've worked all through the night a number of times just to get guys going.
Peter Kelly decided to invest more heavily in his hobby when his two sons grew up, building a bigger workshop which he could run, while handing over much of the responsibility of the farm to his boys.
Shane and his brother left school. I was determined not to stay in charge of the farm, as my father did to me. Well, he handed over to me and gave me a pretty free rein. He was running the stock and I was doing all the farming. And I just wanted that to happen again.
Sadly, after just a year of working side by side, the youngest brother, Kim Kelly, died in a light plane crash.
I just lost interest in everything for a couple of years. Farming was everything I wanted to do all my life, and it just went out the window. And it took a couple of years. We just bought the neighbour's farm out for the lad we lost, and we were seriously going backwards financially because of the high interest rates at 24 or 5%.
Like many farmers, the Kellys had switched to continuous cropping during the tough times to boost returns, adding field peas to the rotation. Harvesting the peas proved a challenge, so Peter Kelly came up with his own pickup device, which was soon in high demand. And suddenly Mr. Fix-It had a new business, designing farm machinery.
He actually started with paper clips and Lego, would you believe? And then he'd be drawing on the floor, and yes, I don't think either of us imagined that it was ever going to be like it is now.
And Audrey and I just needed a break from grief, I guess, and it was the thing that did it. She was down here all the time. She was cutting nylon rod and grinding it up and doing the books and bringing the scones down lunchtime and everything, and it just went from there.
These boxes out on the wings and the tube in the centre front.
As the business unfolded, so did Peter Kelly's plans to build a machine that could manage crop stubble so there was no need to burn it.
We started with 400 feet of anchor chain between two four-wheel drive tractors at 20 kilometres an hour. We could do 400 acres an hour. It was just absolutely magic. But we lit too many fires. The stone, we've got a lot of stone that's fixed in the ground, and it'd just tear across and rip a bit of steel off, and then we'd have a fire. But none of them ever burnt more than about 10, 20 metres square, because we were always prepared. But the neighbours, I could tell, were getting a little bit nervous. Someone and I went and fixed that it had folded up.
Long before this curved creation, Peter Kelly also tried dragging tyres across the paddock. He then shifted to the pointier end of the market, designing prickle chain harrows. It was a more successful move, but one that also hit a few unexpected bumps early on when he started sourcing chains from China.
When we were unloading them, the spikes were falling off them. It was a nightmare. We recalled the chain off 50-odd machines right across Australia from Queensland to the west, re-welded it and returned it to the people all for nothing. It cost us a serious amount of money, but it was the greatest advertising we could have ever done. The people suddenly knew that we were going to stand behind what we made.
A lot of farmers have heard of prickle chains, probably use them. What's so different about this one?
A lot of prickle chains around. This one is sort of a successor to the prickle chains, if you like. It's the disc chain. So these discs are our innovation. The way it works, it's rolling at an angle. It's only got its own weight and the tension and the shape and the weight of the chain to force it into the ground.
It does sort of resemble those disc ploughs, and that's what people might look at it and go, well, is that conservation farming?
Yeah, that's it. And a lot of people will say, well, the plough's been invented many thousands of years ago, what are we doing different? And it's more about the application. So rather than being a heavy plough being forced into the ground, it's more of a really light, shallow harrow.
He may be talking up this patented design now, but Shane Kelly admits he wasn't as sold on his dad's idea to scratch the surface initially.
I was a little bit sceptical at the time. It was, early 2000s. It was a time when no-till was really starting to take hold and spread around the country, and it was certainly the direction that I was heading in farming. But I think the concept that he came up with, he was a good many years ahead of the rest of us.
Local farmer Peter Barry is among the more recent converts. He spent more than $70,000 on the latest version of the machine last year.
Well, I bought it for a number of reasons. Things like I've been able to use for breaking up stubble, burying weeds, using it as an alternative to all chemical spraying for weed control over summer.
Peter Kelly had to drag his discs a lot further to find buyers for the earlier models. He spent weeks on the road taking his oversized invention to field days across the country.
Pete and I took it as far as we could until 2001, and we were both tired. Peter said he didn't think he could keep going like he had been going, and we had a family discussion, and Shane said, how about I have a go at being manager? It worked well.
And while his dad may be the mastermind behind the machine, it's the next generation that has taken it to the other side of the world.
We'd had 2003, 4, 5, 6, so 4 years there when nearly the whole country had below average yields and below average crops. So although we were exposed to as much of Australia as we could be, we still weren't getting ahead with the business. But in 06 we took a big risk and made a deliberate decision to take a machine to the States.
Hey,
This one's set up ready to go?
yeah, no.
The gamble paid off when he met a Missouri supplier who was on the lookout for a replacement for Canadian prickle chains.
Those boxes are all working out all right fabrication-wise?
5 years on, and the Kellys have leased their farm and quadrupled production out of this Bullaroo base.
When its use-by date will be, we don't know. We're extending that by appearing in different countries around the world. And I think the fact that the real benefit in the battle against herbicide resistance is going to give it some longevity. But of course, we need to be thinking what the next invention is.
Like many exporters, the more immediate challenge is riding out the high Australian dollar. While annual turnover has increased from $3 to $17 million since the company went global, Mr Kelly says margins have been eroded by up to 90%. But the company is still expanding overseas and at home, hoping to cash in when the currency settles down.
Economically, the smart thing would probably be for us to pack up and move somewhere near, an export port, nearer our suppliers, closer to a whole lot of facilities. But we've been here for 100 odd years and don't intend to move in a hurry. I think we can make a big difference in a small community. You can employ 40 people in a town of 400 odd. That's making quite a difference.
As for his own kids, well, right now they're more focused on building something fun rather than functional. But the father of 4 is hopeful the family business may be equally appealing in the future.
There are a lot of opportunities that all 4 children may choose to come back to and bring a variety of skills. They don't have to necessarily learn how to farm or learn how to weld to be a part of the family business. So all we need now is a sail, go on there.
And it's the family, not the business, that Audrey Kelly is proudest of.
Being proud of what we've done, I suppose, is the biggest achievement that I can think of. Yes, being associated with those 2 guys.
What would you say has been the secret to your success?
The satisfaction of fixing something for somebody. I've never been money driven, but if someone brings something in broken, it's throw away. You can't hurt it, so you might as well try and fix it. 10 times out of 11 we would.
As for the man who started it all, he's still never far from his tools. Whether he's indulging in his hobby of fixing up old Volkswagens in his sizable shed at home, or doing odd jobs out of the factory, building is clearly in Peter Kelly's blood.
I'm trying to be retired, but if you've been in a business that you've built up and you can see that work needs to be done, it's pretty hard not to do it.